Hello everyone, my name is Tanya Short, Health and Human Sciences Educator for Purdue Extension in Knox County, Indiana. Today is Wednesday, April the 1st, 2020, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central Time. Thank you for joining in with me today for our third and final segment on our credit score series. If you missed the first two segments, you can check out my Facebook page, Knox County HHS, for those other two to learn and understand what is a credit report, what does it contain, and how do you check it. Was discussed Monday, and then yesterday we talked about what actually goes into calculating your credit score and which of those are weighted the most, and so which one should you pay attention to. And so today we are going to talk about how to boost that credit score. So let's assume that you've done the homework I assigned you and you checked your credit report and you checked your credit score and it's not quite where you want it. What should you do? So let me start with a poll question for you all. True or false? Keeping a balance on your credit cards rather than paying them off in full every month will actually help you boost your credit score. What do you guys think about that? So as we will discover as we go on today, that is actually a false statement. That unfortunately I have heard financial advisors post that kind of advice before, and we'll talk a little bit more here in a minute about why that is not necessarily the best idea for you. So as a recap from yesterday, we talked about how your FICO score or your credit score is calculated, going into your payment history, how much you owe, how new or old your credit is, the length of that credit history, and the type of credit mix. And so what does that all mean? Well, let's take a look here a second about the difference between someone who has a pretty high credit score in that 800 range versus someone who needs to kind of keep trucking a little bit, who might be a little bit below 700, which that's still, it could be worse, but it could also be better. So let's look at the difference between these two folks. So number one, those who have the much higher credit score almost never miss a payment. 96% of them pay on time versus 5% of the persons with the lower credit score pay on time. How much available credit do they have? So 93%, so virtually all versus virtually none. And what they mean by available credit is, so let's say I have a credit card that has a $5,000 credit limit. So $5,000 is my credit. And if I have 93% of that available, it means I probably have a balance of somewhere around $350. So I still have a lot of money left on that credit card that I could potentially spend. Whereas the folks in the left-hand column, the improver column, their balance is going to be somewhere near max. And so that's something that credit reporting agencies don't want to see us so close to that max. Another difference is the amount of total debt that high achievers versus improvers have, and then the length of your credit history. And so naturally, as we talked about yesterday, this number is going to go up with age. And so I was actually reading a blog post on credit scores, and they used the phrase credit before or age before beauty. And so in this case, it really is true that those older adults have this established and in their favor to get that credit length. So let's take another look at our little mix chart here and look at some specifics. So 35% of our credit score is based on our payment history. So we need to be making our payments on time. That is the number one most important thing you can do, is make sure you make your payments on time. Mark your calendar, set automatic reminders, have automatic deductions from your bank account. Do what you have to do to remember to get those payments in on time. Number two, make more than the minimum payment if you can. If you're able to pay it off in full every month, do that. It shows and indicates a level of responsible credit use to those who are watching you. And remember, in our first segment when we talked about credit reports, that when we're thinking about financial institutions, and even more so than that, people who use our credit reports, such as, say, our auto insurance company, they deem our credit score as a level of our Reliability and responsibility. Number 3, keep your loan balances low. Not only is this going to make your payments smaller, hopefully, but it's also going to show that you don't borrow more than you need. Number 4, don't open too many credit accounts. And this is especially true about not opening too many accounts all at once. So if you have 2, 3, 4 accounts that have been opened within a 6 to 12 month period. So let's say I went out and between the beginning of the year and now, I just opened 3 new credit cards that each had a $5,000 balance. I now potentially have, should I max those credit cards out, I now potentially have $15,000 more in debt, which does not look good from another creditor's standpoint saying, should I lend you money? You already kind of owe a lot. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5, keep old accounts open. Now, if you joined me yesterday, you remember that I added with a caveat on that one that this is only if you can restrict yourself from unnecessarily using those accounts. So if you have a revolving line of credit or if you have a credit card and you just cannot you just love shopping too much and you're going to be tempted to use that credit card, even if you put it away in the safe or freeze it on a block of ice, then it's better to go ahead and get rid of it and sacrifice some of your age or your credit history as opposed to being tempted to keep racking up your debt. So if possible, keep those old accounts open, but know yourself and don't submit yourself to too much temptation. And lastly, don't open unnecessary revolving credit accounts. And so this is especially true for every time you go to a department store, they offer you a credit card. If you open a credit card, you get a discount. So if you do that every time you're out shopping and you end up with a whole wad of credit cards, again, that looks negatively against you that you have so much potential outstanding debt. And the same goes here with doing things like payday loans or cash checking places. Those are really frowned upon from a credit score perspective. Oh, I'm so sorry, Kristen, cutting in and out. I hope it's not my internet. I have been having troubles today, I think, with the whole neighborhood home. We're taxing our internet a little bit. But how do I repair my credit? Well, the sad part, or the truth is, it's just like anything else. It's just like losing weight or anything else that we want to change. It takes time, right? And there's no quick fix. And I love this graphic in the middle here. Credit repair scams. They make your money disappear. They can do something all right. Now, there are some legitimate companies that can help you kind of work through maybe consolidating loans or thinking about how you can manage your debt payments so that you don't end up with negative reports on your credit. But honestly, this is something you could do yourself as well if you felt equipped with the knowledge to really sit down and go through your credit report. Remember that no one can legally remove negative information from your credit report if it is indeed your debt. Does it make a difference if I pay them in full on time? Kristen, that's exactly what I want you to do. So if you can't pay them in full, absolutely pay them on time, okay? But pay as much as you can, because that's going to look, not only are you going to pay less interest fees, right? So in the long term, it saves you that way, but you also, it looks better from a credit responsibility perspective that you do your best to take care of your debt. And so what if you do indeed have an error on your credit report? So you did your homework that I gave you on Monday, you pulled up your credit report, you found something that wasn't right, that wasn't yours, or maybe it was an old account that should have been closed a long time ago, etc. There's 2 things you need to do. Number 1, you need to contact the credit reporting company, the credit reporting agency, and remember there's 3 of those: Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Depending on which credit report that inaccurate information shows up on, that's who you need to contact. If it's on all 3 credit reports, then you need to contact all 3 companies. And step 2 is you need to let the creditor know that you dispute an item. And you can even try that. Honestly, there's not really a step one, step two. You could say contacting the creditor is your step one. But if you've already been working with them and for whatever reason, you know, I've heard a lot of stories teaching these kind of programs over the years. So if you're having trouble getting them to acknowledge the error, you can go to the credit reporting company, file a complaint. This can be done via paper or it can be done online. And they will research it for you, and there's usually about a 30-day turnaround time, and they will give you their determination. And so there are some resources that I would point you to. These are two websites that I've been pointing you to all week. The CFPB is a website housed by the federal government where you can find a ton of resources, including how to dispute errors on a credit report, and there's even some templates on how you should write your letter and information that you should include. And myfico.com is going to have some of that same information. I will just remind you, like I did yesterday, that when you go to that myfico.com, the first page is going to ask you to sign up for an account. You don't have to do that. You do not have to purchase their services in order to access a lot of the educational materials that they have available. So at this point, I would just like to say thank you and invite you to post any questions that you have about that in the chat box. And to remind you that if you missed the other two segments, to go back to my Facebook page and pull those up from Monday and from yesterday. And please share those with your friends. I think credit scores are kind of a sensitive thing that we don't really want to talk about. But we need to, especially with our loved ones and families. And so with that, I would remind you, if you did not do your homework yet, go check your credit report, annualcreditreport.com, and as well as choosing one of the myriad of free credit score monitoring programs and get signed up, because remember, your score equals money. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.